We all know when a living thing dies, nature takes its course, an irreversible, one-way path of decay begins. The bits that the thing was made of, its complex molecules, start to degrade and become disorganized. This natural process is unavoidable, and we have all observed it. Surprisingly, some very smart people from Charles Darwin to scientists today believe that the opposite process has occurred. They say some time ago, purely natural processes somehow created and arranged molecules required for the first ever living organism from a primordial soup, and that led to life as we know it today. Maybe you've seen this contraption before, it's in every biology textbook. Decades ago, these two scientists, Stanley Miller and Miller-Urey, made this experiment to try and test if life can come from non-life. Abiogenesis, sometimes called chemical evolution, textbooks count the Miller-Urey experiment and others like it, as evidence of this. The picture painted is that with a few tweaks and enough time, they're just a hop, a jump, and a skip away from creating life. They contend that under the right conditions, getting the building blocks of life is easy enough, and from there, life would flow naturally. But is it really the case? Let's take a closer look. Simpler chemicals have indeed been transformed into some of the building blocks of life in the lab, that much is true. How impressive is it? Well, about as impressive as water turning into ice. When the situation is right, water freezes, pretty cool. Likewise, these building blocks form spontaneously as well when the situation is right. The important questions are: 1. How do these lab experiments compare to reality, and 2. How close do these building blocks get us to life? In other words, if we had the building blocks, will life flow naturally as the biology textbooks seem to indicate? One dirty little secret of these origin of life experiments is that they don't actually start with plausible natural conditions. They sort of just cheated. These scientists begin with pure industrial strength ingredients. These are never found in nature like that, in such extreme concentration and purity, certainly not all in the same location. Billions of dollars of precise machinery created and operated by thousands of very intelligent people in labs all around the world over the course of many decades are what get used to the point where these experiments can ever begin. Another dirty little secret of these origin of life experiments is in the presentation of their results. Even cheating like they did, what exactly did they end up with? The best majority of what they make is actually toxic garbage, and not only that, it unwantedly destroys the building block's ability to form more complex molecules. The very process that makes these building blocks also critically stops them dead in their tracks, a little detail your biology textbooks may have left out. Now they are trying to show that these building blocks can form in natural environmental conditions. So yes, these conditions are natural, only in the same sense that your cell phone is also made in natural conditions with natural ingredients. The metal in your cell phone is basically just some melted down rocks. The battery is more simple elements like lithium and cobalt. The glass screen, complete chips and circuitry, are just fancy melted sand. The apps and pictures on your phone are simply arrangements of electrons, another completely natural phenomenon. Every element of your smartphone can be broken down into naturally occurring components, just in concentration impurities and arrangements never found in nature, very similar to these lab experiments. You know, I have never seen a cell phone happen in nature, not even one of those old crummy ones you can play snakes on. If I made a cell phone in a lab using ingredients created in factories, am I really stimulating a natural process, or am I using intelligence to direct and create? Now, scientists do acknowledge that starting with these industrial-strength chemicals is problematic, but they often express this in code terms laden with jargon to make it sound less awful. Nowhere on Earth could they ever expect to find the circumstances they contrived to reach the conclusion they wanted.
Yeah, but given enough time or enough planets in the universe, surely anything could happen. What if we had billions of years?
Some problems are not solvable by time. When people assume that lots of time is abiogenesis's best friend, it seems reasonable. But it's exactly wrong. Yes, Time gives more opportunities for things to happen, but what's overlooked is that it also gives more opportunities for time to decay and destroy the trace amounts of biotic material that may have been created. The origin of life is not like a very long journey by foot where if you could just make a little bit of progress, just one single step, given enough time, you could make any distance. This is a problem of a different category, it's more like attempting to walk to the moon. Time won't help that sort of problem. Well, to give you a rough idea of how large the chasm is, these experiments have produced small molecules like this. And this is just some of what they need for even a very simple, single-celled organism. Thousands of chemical ingredients must be present in the same place at the same time, with the correct concentrations and chirality, with no ability to tolerate anywhere near the level of impurity found in undirected chemical processes or in the lab. Living organisms handle this by making most of the chemicals they need for themselves, on-site and on demand, but, of course, that wouldn't be possible before they existed. The chasm between the starting point and the simplest possible life form is so large that abiogenesis is hopelessly and forever off limits to the mechanisms in question. It's not that there isn't enough time, it's nonsensical, like asking how heavy is blue, it's simply the wrong question and it betrays an ignorance of the scope of the problems involved. In spite of the observable data and our own experience showing us that, left to its own devices, life only goes one way, towards decay and degradation, some still have faith that it could have gone the other way in the distant past with the origin of life. When you hear statements like, life arose via chemical evolution, that sounds scientific. But that claim more comes to alchemy or horoscope than to science, lots of narrative and hope but little actual evidence, and so they rely on imagination and people's scientific ignorance to be persuasive. So it is clear from the data that life is irreducibly complex, it must not come naturally without an intelligence. So these biology textbooks are hiding the truth.